Well, let's pivot our attention now and check in when it comes to the markets. Joining us this week on the desk is Jeff Peterson. He's the president of Heartland Farm Partners. Jeff, good to see you.
You bet. Great to see you, Bryce.
Had a chance to see you out in the field last week, soybean management field days. What'd you, in the interactions you had with producers, what was the feel you got from them? How's the crop across the state of Nebraska?
You know, it's great. I appreciate everybody's attendance to those. It was a great turnout, and we really like sharing our thoughts about the markets. And overall, I thought it was interesting. Actually, the crops overall for me in the areas that we covered, I thought they probably looked a little better than what I was expecting as I was out there. But I didn't get really far into the fields, Bryce.
Yeah. When it comes to the U.S. Trends, we track the USDA data, the crop progress report this week. Taking a look at those numbers, 59% corn in the good to excellent category, 59% for soybeans as well. Your take on those numbers back up what you're hearing with producers and the things you're studying?
It really is. It's variable this year as we'd expect, and I think it's even more so than last year. And I think the reason for that is that what we have is that we're very low in subsoil moisture. And as a result of that, if all of a sudden you didn't happen to catch a rain, then all of a sudden your crops are showing stress when maybe your neighbors down the road didn't. I think overall we've picked up enough moisture that I think the conditions are improving. We don't know necessarily what that means as it translates over to the yield yet, but just to kind of put it in comparison to last year, we're a couple percent better than where we would have been on the corn side last year at this time. And that's a big change. I honestly, if we'd have been sitting here talking probably about 4 weeks ago, I'd have said, boy, we're coming in, we're tracking with 12, and we're going to come in way below where we were last year, but we're above where we were last year. And the other thing to think about, we got a little bit different pattern coming in here, Bryce. We actually are in the process of improving on our conditions now, and last year at this time we were in a decline. And what's interesting about the improvement is that normally this time of year it is hard to keep from declining because we kind of switch from that vegetative state over to that reproductive stage on both the corn and the soybean side. And as a result of that, it's hard to maintain those conditions.
So that's the weather side of this market. Obviously, the market's paying close attention to that, and the traders also keep bringing up demand. I wanted to ask you this question. When it comes to demand for corn and soybeans this time of year, it seems like we're looking, the traders are, that is. Is there a seasonality trend that you can say, hey, perhaps it's September 1st, that's when we start to see demand pick up, or is there something we can point to?
Yeah, that's the interesting one. So let's break that apart really in a couple pieces here. So let's look at the old crop demand. We're hearing a lot about where we're going to come in on our final numbers. And we're probably getting to a point, I think ethanol's chugging along good enough. We had a NOPA crush number this week that actually said that we're probably right in alignment with what we ended up having on the crush side on the beans. But I think a lot of the tension's getting put on the new crop. And in particular in the new crop, what a lot of people are looking at is they're saying, wait a minute, we have a lot less exports going than we did last year at this time. But what we have to realize is it really comes back to basis. Because if the foreign buyers, if they really have an opinion about the futures price, they can take futures positions to go ahead and protect themselves if they think it's going to go higher or something. But it comes back to the basis. And I think all the traders are still kind of looking and thinking, you know what, maybe we'll get a little bit lower basis as we go into harvest. I don't know that I agree with them, but I think that's kind of what they're looking at right now and saying, let's see where this crop, if we happen to get a little bigger crop, basis will be a little cheaper, then they'll start loading up. And we are starting to see some improvement. We're seeing some additional bean demand coming in. We're also starting to see a little bit on the corn side. So I think we will see that demand pick up, Bryce.
For producers watching today, you think there might be some selling opportunities between now and harvest for corn and soybeans?
Yeah, I think what we're setting at right now, we've had a pullback in the market, and the market kind of found some support. We've bounced back a little bit higher, and I think we can. We've got some warmer, drier conditions coming at us right now, and regardless of kind of what your thought is on that, I mean, that isn't going to be helpful to the crop. But what we have to remind ourselves of is it really is the heart of it's going to be in the Central Plains. Is it going to come up across Kansas, into Nebraska, on up into parts of, South Dakota and into the very southwest corner of Minnesota. But the rest of the Corn Belt's actually going to be looking pretty good. So I think we can get a little bounce. What we have to do, though, is when we do get that bounce, we have to be ready to make some additional sales.
All right, this week, a lot of eyes going to be on the Pro Farmer Tour. They're going to be out in the field scouting. You expect to see any surprises from that?
I'm just really looking forward to it because, when we used to have the WASDE report from the August one, we actually had NAS out in the field doing those samples. Pro Farmer will be the first opportunity where we see large scale. They'll have a large amount of samples. They're traveling those same routes. You know, we can debate about how good their final number is, but I think the thing that we can take away is that the information they give us in regard to basically population counts, what the size of the ears are, how that compares to other years, that's going to shed a lot of light on us so we have a good feel of kind of what are some of those numbers as we prepare for the September report, which will be when NASA will actually get out in the fields and actually get some hard numbers.
We'll keep an eye on that for sure. I want to give you a minute or so here left, Jeff. You noted you want to talk about carry-in basis. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so as we think about the marketing plan, this time of year, what you want to do is you really want to make sure you know how much is my production going to be? How much bin space do I have? And the reason we're doing that and also taking a look at the whole cash flow side, so we know when we need to move our bushels. Now, if I've made some sales either through hedges or I've done it through hedge to arrives, one of the questions I have to really answer is that, do I want to physically roll those contracts ahead? Will I want to take them from December on out to March, or what I want to do? And our thought on the carry is we think the carry will get a little bigger. We think those differences will be a little bit bigger. We know that it'll be bigger than where we've been in the past because interest rates are higher and interest calculations come into play. And they have to be able to go ahead and cover that. And then over on the basis side, we think we'll see some better basis levels for harvest and for post-harvest as we go forward.